Hello and welcome to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. We're going to take a look at FRC. I think this is a bank stock. I really don't pay attention to these individual names, but we can see based off of the most recent weekly stock chart that there was a massive drop that happened at some point at the very beginning of March. So I'm just going to be led to believe that this is a bank stock. We can see that the weekly chart looks a little ugly, but the daily chart appears to be shaping up. We look like we maybe have hit the bottom essentially somewhere here around 1175. Maybe we hit the bottom again around 1250, but now it looks like we're starting to see a little bit of a breakout. We did hit a high of 1639 and we did close over $16 or around $16. There's a lot of ground to make up on a stock like this when you come from over $100. So it's possibly a very good long for folks to get into at this moment. Now we can look at the sentiment indicator here for FRC. We can see that this is a representation of bullish and bearish price action. We can see here on the 13th was the lowest when we had 23% bullishness. Just as a reminder about this indicator, if you haven't seen my videos before, this indicator really can't go above 60%, and it generally has trouble going below 40% unless you get an exogenous event, which is going to drive sentiment so negative that it's going to force people out of the stock. We can see now, though, that we are coming up off the bottom, and we have recently been around a low of 36%, but we're coming back around that 50. We're at 44% right now. We've recently been at 45%. This market generally wants to be in equilibrium, so you'd expect this to at least show some more bullishness. We'll go ahead and look at the sentiment indicator here for the weekly version of it. You can see it is still very depressed by the end of the last week. It's still around 34% on the weekly, down at 33%, 34% recently. It's recently been as high as 45%, so we would expect a good rebound here if we can get some directional move back in the bullish direction. We can see, obviously, looking at the volume, it's really kind of useless when you're looking at this kind of a scale change in the amount of volume being traded. Especially when we look at here on the daily, it looks like we did get a big breakout in volume today. Nearly 80 million shares were traded as we saw the price moving higher. That's an incredibly positive sign for FRC. Let's go ahead and look at the daily volatility. We can see as the volatility has essentially been falling since the beginning of April, and the correlation has slightly been rising, which has meant that the price has been falling dramatically. It does look like correlation is starting to actually fall while volatility is falling, which means that price is going to start rising a bit. Let's look at it on the weekly. We can see that the weekly volatility here, volatility obviously has gone through the roof. It is at the highest level that it has ever been at, currently at 22. The most recent time that it was like that was at 21. And that was back in May of 2022. And we can see that correlation is actually falling. So as volatility is rising, correlation is falling. That's not positive. That means that the price is going to essentially waterfall. Now, because the correlation, or now because volatility has expanded so much, the size of the range is insane. You could see this range go all the way up to $222 or all the way down to negative 24. This is obviously not zero bounded because you probably can't go negative, and the likelihood that we go to $222 right now is insane. That would be an all-time high. But that's what happens when volatility breaks out. We'll go ahead and look at it here on the daily. It does look like on the daily that at least the trade range has really come back into itself. It did do what the weekly did, was essentially expand huge with the top and the bottom going negative even here. But now it looks like that we've had some time to process this, and it does appear that we are seeing price continue to work the top of its range and potentially start to put in some sort of bullish formation. We're going to start to look at the raw data here. The raw data specifically for FRC, we can see is going to be very, very ugly. This time period where it was falling dramatically from $96 down to $12. If you don't know what my correlation colors mean in terms of where this is in its range, when it has a white background with blue lettering, that means that it is incredibly depressed. It's over 3 standard deviations away from where it should be. If you want to learn how to make something like this, specifically how I do the color coordinating, I actually have a video that I'm going to link to at the very end here that shows you how to make essentially the beginning of this trade model, especially showing you how to do the standard deviations, how to do the conditional formatting, how to go ahead and set up, how to get historical data, and how to make sure you can change it at any time to look at any different stock. Now, obviously, we can see that the range is essentially reset because when it's green, like you see here from the end of March until it looks like 420, it looks like essentially this is in the middle of its range. It does look like $16 at the top of its range, so we would expect to get a little bit of a pullback on that. But when you're getting this kind of depression in the movement of the price as well as the increase in the volume, right? We're going to 119 or 228 million shares traded in one day. We could see some crazy moves exist because we're at the point now we're seeing 80 million shares traded. It's actually well within the realm of possibility for what you'd expect. So again, if you have any interest in building something that looks like this to pull historical data, to do the conditional formatting to see where the price is, even to do it on volume, because I'm pretty sure I teach you that too, you can go ahead and click on the card that is at the end of this video and give me a comment, give me a watch, give me whatever you want. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.